The Senate voting on a sweeping election reform bill. Democrats say it would protect voting rights, but Republicans say it would be federal overreach. It's unlikely to get the 10 Republican votes it needs to move forward. Debates around the border crisis continue. Over 50 House Republicans are calling on Biden to replace Harris as Border Czar. And as the Biden administration reverses more Trump-era border policies, Nebraska is sending troops to the U.S.-Mexico border to help law enforcement there. Tune into Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. The NYC mayoral primaries are today. And on the national level, the Senate voting on the sweeping election reform bill. Democrats say it would protect voting rights, as it's dubbed the For the People Act. But Republicans say it would be federal overreach. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says it's a vote on whether the Senate should simply debate the issue of voting rights, the crucial issue of voting rights in this country. He says it's in response to voting laws in Republican-led states, which he called an attack on the right to vote. But not everyone agrees. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell counters by saying they've made it abundantly clear that the real driving force behind S1 is a desire to rig the rules of American elections permanently in Democrats' favor. Republicans are united against the bill, so it's unlikely to pass, since it needs at least 10 Republican votes. That's because Democrats would need 60 votes to overrule the filibuster and begin debate in the evenly divided Senate. The nearly 900-page bill would expand voter registration, require 15 days of mail-in and early voting, and limit states from removing voters from voter rolls. Last week, Democrat Joe Manchin proposed a compromise to try to get bipartisan support. It included voter ID requirements, at least 15 days of early voting, making states send absentee ballots to eligible voters, and making Election Day a public holiday. Last week, progressive Democrat Stacey Abrams supported his proposal on CNN, but it didn't get GOP support. Republican Roy Blunt said it became the Stacey Abrams substitute instead of the Joe Manchin substitute. On Monday, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki acknowledged that the vote will likely fail. She said if the bill is unsuccessful, they suspect it will prompt a new conversation about the path forward. President Biden has vowed what the White House calls the fight of his presidency over guaranteeing Americans have access to the polls. Now let's turn from debates about securing the election to debates around securing the border. 56 House Republicans are urging Biden to replace VP Kamala Harris as Border Czar. They noted Harris has yet to visit the border amid a surge in illegal immigration. They also cited recent CBP data that shows that 180,000 people were apprehended last month after crossing the border illegally. The letter says, despite being in the midst of a border crisis this country has not seen in 2 decades, Vice President Harris has not yet shown adequate interest in observing this crisis firsthand. Adding, in the 85 days since the vice president has been tasked with solving this crisis, she has yet to visit the border and meet with Border Patrol agents, immigration and customs enforcement officials, and local law enforcement officials. They go on to say, in our experience, it is important to meet with these officials to learn about their perspectives and observations about the origins and motivations of the thousands of people coming here every day. It is an insult to our hard-working Border Patrol, ICE, and local law enforcement officials that put their lives on the line every day that the vice president has yet to speak with them. Biden appointed Harris to the position over 80 days ago to solve what the White House calls the root causes of migrant crisis. Areas in Central America that fall under root causes include poverty, climate change, and violence. As part of her responsibilities, Harris recently visited Guatemala and Mexico. She met with leaders there to discuss the root causes of migration and also to urge migrants not to come to the United States. She described her trip as a success, but disgruntled voices remain. Many noting Harris has yet to visit the southern border. The White House, meanwhile, has sought to clarify that Harris is in charge of diplomatic talks and thus doesn't necessarily need to visit the border. Many Republicans fired back, saying it's still important for her to visit the border. Harris said she would visit the border in the future and said she is addressing the root causes of the crisis. And while the White House has steered away from calling it a crisis, states along the border are already issuing emergency declarations. The governors of Arizona and Texas asked 48 states for help at the U.S.-Mexico border. Soon after, Florida answered their calls. Nebraska is following suit. On June 19th, Governor Pete Ricketts announced Nebraska will send around 25 State Patrol troopers to Del Rio, Texas later in June. They are going to Del Rio possibly because their Border Patrol sector has seen a significant surge of migrants in recent months. The troopers will partner with the Texas Department of Public Safety, and the deployment will last no longer than 16 days. Typically, only federal officers under Border Patrol or ICE can detain people for immigration offenses. But because Governors Abbott and Ducey declared a disaster and an emergency, state police can make arrests in their states. Ricketts said the disastrous policies of the Biden-Harris administration created an immigration crisis at the border, and that Nebraska is stepping up to help Texas. Many Republicans have blamed the border crisis on the Biden administration's reversing of Trump-era policies. And they're not stopping it. The Biden administration just reversed 2 attorney general decisions made under Trump. They are known as LEA-2 and AB-1, AB-2. It changes how migrants can get asylum. Congress authorizes grants of asylum to those who can show that they are fleeing persecution on account of their membership in a particular social group. LEA-2 limits the circumstances under which a family may qualify as a particular social group. AB-1 broadly stated that victims of private criminal activity, such as domestic violence or gang violence, will not qualify for asylum, except perhaps in exceptional circumstances. Attorney General Merrick Garland issued a new directive to immigration judges to stop following the 2 rules. This means it is now easier for migrants to secure asylum if they can claim they face domestic violence or gang violence. Associate Attorney General wrote in a memo explaining the decision, saying these decisions involve important questions about the meaning of our nation's asylum laws, which reflect America's commitment to providing refuge to some of the world's most vulnerable people. Garland said he was making the changes in line with the current administration. That's after Joe Biden ordered his office and the Department of Homeland Security to draft rules addressing complex issues in immigration law about groups of people who should qualify for asylum. The ICE under Biden recently dismantled the Victims of Immigration Crime Engagement or VOICE office. Trump set it up in 2017 to help victims of crimes committed by illegal immigrants. The Biden administration replaced it with the Victims Engagement and Services line. They call it an inclusive support system for all victims, regardless of immigration status or the immigration status of the perpetrator. And they add it's a streamlined and all-encompassing access point for all victims. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said all people, regardless of their immigration status, should be able to access victim services without fear. This administration is committed to providing a reliable source of information and guidance for all victims, irrespective of their status. Acting ICE director said people who contact the new office for help won't be asked about their immigration status. The new office as a service for potential recipients of T visas, which are designed for victims of human trafficking, and U visas, which are meant for victims of violent crimes in the U.S. ICE said one of the services it provides is the Detention Reporting and Information Line, which provides victims the ability to report incidents of sexual or physical assault, abuse, or mistreatment while in ICE detention. So why did the Trump administration put in place such policies? Gene Hamilton said in a statement that he believes the change will lead to more asylum claims based on crime, and that crime shouldn't be a reason for protections. Hamilton was a key contributor to President Donald Trump's immigration policies and who served in the Justice Department. Trump's first Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, said during a speech in 2018, the asylum system is being abused to the detriment of the rule of law, sound public policy, and public safety, and to the detriment of people with just claims. Adding this is a large part of what has been accurately called catch and release. Asylum was never meant to alleviate all problems, even all serious problems, that people face every day all over the world. A key architect of Trump's immigration policies, Stephen Miller, called the decision to close VOICE a moral stain on the conscience of our nation. He compared the new office to the Drug Enforcement Administration opening a call center to help drug dealers get lawyers and amnesty for their crimes. Barbara Gonzalez, then director of Voice, told reporters in October of 2019, "I have had to hold the hand of too many mothers who lost a child to a DUI or somebody else who's been raped by an illegal alien or someone with a nexus to immigration. It is a problem we cannot ignore as a country." A policy analyst for Homeland Security and Cyber Policy at the Heritage Foundation, David Insera, wrote in a 2018 report that the United States asylum system can be abused and act as a pathway to more illegal immigration. And meanwhile, a group of 12 GOP senators are asking the DHS chief to release Biden's immigration overhaul blueprint. They're calling on DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to immediately release a 46-page draft called the DHS Plan to Restore Trust in Our Legal Immigration System, which was first reported by the New York Times. It reportedly maps out the Biden administration's plans for a significant expansion of the legal immigration system. They say in the letter, it is disturbing that the Department of Homeland Security would keep this kind of information hidden from Congress and the public, yet share it with the media. These proposals have the potential to compromise the integrity of our immigration vetting system at the expense of national security and public safety. They have set a deadline of July 15th, saying these documents should be released by no later than July 15th, 2021. Failure to share the two documents with Congress by that date will be treated as obstruction of legitimate congressional oversight. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.